In this captivating video, we delve into the mysterious world of our beloved pets and their extraordinary ability to perceive things that often elude human senses. You might find it astonishing to learn that the way your pet gazes at you could be a window into a reality you're blissfully unaware of. What secrets do they see? What hidden dimensions might they be tapping into? Before we embark on this intriguing journey, I urge you to listen closely to the stories that will unfold, as they hold vital insights into the nature of our bond with our furry companions. Let us introduce you to Max, a spirited golden retriever whose playful demeanor and loyal heart have made him a cherished member of the Thompson family. The Thompsons, like many families, often found joy in the simple moments spent with Max, whether it was running in the park, playing fetch, or cuddling on the couch during movie nights. Yet, there was something unique about Max. He had an uncanny knack for sensing things beyond the ordinary. One sunny afternoon, as the Thompsons prepared for a family picnic, Max sat by the back door, his ears perked and his eyes fixed on the horizon. While the family busied themselves with packing sandwiches and gathering supplies, Max remained unusually still, as though he was waiting for something significant to happen. It was almost as if he could see an unseen presence in the air, a feeling that something extraordinary was about to occur. As Mrs. Thompson called out, "Max, come here and help us." The dog seemed unfazed, his gaze unwavering. Mr. Thompson chuckled. "He's just being a typical dog, isn't he?" But Mrs. Thompson felt a shiver run down her spine. "No, I think he senses something." She had always believed that animals possess an intuition that we, as humans, often overlook. Suddenly, a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, and the sound of laughter echoed from the distance. The Thompsons soon realized that the neighborhood kids were playing nearby, their joy filling the air. But Max remained fixated, his body tense, as if he were the guardian of something intangible. This peculiar behavior intrigued Mrs. Thompson, who often read about animals' extraordinary abilities to sense changes in the environment, like impending weather shifts or the emotions of their human companions. Later that day, as the family settled down for their picnic, they noticed that Max had not only been watching the horizon, but also keeping an eye on the children playing. He would occasionally let out a soft growl, his instinct kicking in as he sensed an approaching storm. The sky, once a cerulean blue, began to darken ominously, and distant rumbles of thunder echoed through the air. The children, initially oblivious to the changing weather, continued their games, unaware of the impending downpour. "Max seems to know something we don't," Mr. Thompson remarked, glancing at his wife. She nodded thoughtfully, recalling stories of dogs that could predict their owner's seizures or alert them to dangers lurking in the shadows. It was as if Max were a bridge between two worlds, one where humans lived and another where unseen forces roamed freely. Just as the first raindrops began to fall, Max sprang into action. He darted toward the children, barking and nudging them to head back to their homes. The kids, startled but obedient, followed Max's lead, laughing as they ran back to the safety of their houses. "He really does know," Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, a mix of awe and admiration filling her voice. As the rain poured down, the family huddled under a large oak tree, sheltered from the downpour. Max stood guard, his instincts on high alert, watching as the storm enveloped the park. It was during this moment that Mrs. Thompson pondered the deeper connections between animals and the unseen world. Could it be that Max had a sixth sense, one that allowed him to perceive things beyond the physical realm? The rain continued to fall, and the sky lit up with flashes of lightning, illuminating Max's golden fur. As Mrs. Thompson stroked his head, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for having such a perceptive companion. Max was not merely a pet. He was a protector, a guide, and a friend who could sense the world in ways that humans often dismissed. Days turned into weeks, and the Thompsons found themselves increasingly captivated by Max's intuitive abilities. They noticed that he would often act strangely before family members experienced emotional upheaval. For instance, during times of stress or sorrow, Max would curl up next to them, offering comfort, his presence soothing their troubled hearts. It was as if he could sense their emotional turbulence, and in doing so, he became their emotional anchor. One evening, after a long day at work, Mr. Thompson returned home, visibly exhausted. As he slumped onto the couch, Max immediately jumped up beside him, resting his head on his lap. "Hey, buddy," Mr. Thompson sighed, grateful for the warmth of his furry companion. But as he petted Max, he noticed something peculiar. The dog was staring intently at the corner of the room, his eyes wide and ears perked up. It was as if he was watching a ghost only he could see. "Max, what's wrong, boy?" Mr. Thompson asked, perplexed. But Max continued to gaze intently, his body tense, as if he were waiting for an answer from a presence that remained unseen to the rest of the family. Mrs. Thompson, who had been in the kitchen, overheard her husband and came to join him. "What's going on?" she inquired, following her husband's gaze toward the corner. "I don't know. He's just staring at the wall," Mr. Thompson replied. Max let out a low growl, his instincts alerting him to something in the space. The couple exchanged glances, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension weaving through the air. Was it possible that Max was seeing something beyond the veil of their reality? As the weeks went by, these bizarre instances became more frequent. Max would often react to sounds that were inaudible to the Thompsons, barking or growling at empty spaces, as if engaged in conversations with entities only he could perceive. Fascinated and a bit spooked, the family began to wonder if their pet had tapped into a realm that remained hidden from them. One rainy night, the Thompsons decided to host a small gathering with friends. As laughter filled their home, Max was unusually restless, roaming from room to room, sniffing at corners, and occasionally barking at unseen specters. "Is he okay?" one of their friends asked, glancing at the dog. "Oh, he does this sometimes," Mrs. Thompson replied, trying to brush it off. Yet, deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that Max was sensing something. As the evening progressed and the laughter grew louder, Max finally settled down, lying at the feet of Mr. Thompson, but not without casting suspicious glances towards the darkened hallway. Later that night, after the guests had left and the house had settled into silence, Mrs. Thompson heard a soft whimper. It was Max, sitting at the front door, his eyes fixed on something just beyond the threshold. "What is it, boy?" she whispered, kneeling beside him. Max looked up at her, his gaze filled with an intelligence that seemed to transcend mere canine understanding. In that moment, Mrs. Thompson felt a chill run down her spine. She had read stories about dogs sensing spirits, detecting emotional energy, and even foreseeing events. Was it possible that Max was trying to communicate something important? As she reached out to comfort him, she couldn't help but wonder, what was it that he could see, and why was it so significant? The following day, Mrs. Thompson decided to do some research. She dove into articles about animal intuition, ancient beliefs about pets acting as guardians, and studies about their extraordinary perception. To her astonishment, she discovered that many pet owners reported similar experiences, often attributing their pets' strange behaviors to heightened senses or connections to other realms. She learned that dogs, with their acute hearing and sense of smell, could detect changes in the environment that humans often overlooked. But it went beyond that. Many believed that animals could sense emotional energies and spiritual presences that humans could not. This revelation ignited a spark of curiosity within her, urging her to explore the depths of her bond with Max further. That weekend, the Thompsons decided to take Max on a hiking trip to the local nature reserve. They hoped that the fresh air and open spaces would rejuvenate not only their spirits, but also allow Max to express himself freely. As they traversed the winding trails, Max was in his element, bounding ahead, sniffing every tree and rock, seemingly connected to the very essence of nature. However, as they reached a secluded clearing, Max suddenly stopped, his body tense, his ears perked up. The Thompsons exchanged puzzled glances. "What is it, boy?" Mr. Thompson called out, but Max remained fixated on a spot in the distance. Curiosity piqued, Mrs. Thompson approached Max, kneeling beside him. "What do you see?" she whispered, feeling an inexplicable connection to her pet in that moment. As she looked in the direction of Max's gaze, she noticed a shimmering light filtering through the trees. a phenomenon that had gone unnoticed by the rest of the family. Suddenly, a gentle breeze stirred, causing the leaves to rustle and the light to dance. It was as if the forest was alive, breathing in rhythm with Max's instincts. Mrs. Thompson felt a profound sense of peace wash over her, and she realized that perhaps, just perhaps, Max was guiding the family to a deeper understanding of their surroundings. As they spent the afternoon in the clearing, the Thompsons began to relax, their worries dissipating. As they soaked in the tranquility of nature, Max, ever the vigilant companion, trotted around the clearing, his tail wagging with uncontainable joy. But even in his exuberance, there was an underlying attentiveness to his surroundings that captivated Mrs. Thompson. With each playful leap, it was as if he was not only enjoying the moment, but also tuning into the subtle energies of the forest. After a while, Mr. Thompson decided to throw a stick for Max, watching as the dog dashed off with unbridled enthusiasm. As the golden retriever retrieved the stick, Mrs. Thompson took a moment to reflect on the bond they shared. She thought of how Max had become an integral part of their family, not just as a pet, but as a being capable of sensing the emotions and experiences that shaped their lives. "Do you think he knows how much we love him?" she asked, glancing at her husband. Mr. Thompson smiled, his eyes softening as he watched Max prance back, stick in mouth, tail wagging like a flag. "I think he knows more than we realize," he replied. "Sometimes I feel like he's in tune with something we can't quite grasp." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape, the Thompsons shared a picnic under the expansive sky. They laughed and talked about their day, but every now and then, they noticed Max looking off into the distance, his demeanor shifting from playful to watchful. It was a reminder that even in moments of joy, he was attuned to something beyond their perception. As stars began to twinkle overhead, Mrs. Thompson felt a sense of wonder envelop her. It was as if the universe was conspiring to reveal secrets hidden within the fabric of their lives. What if Max was more than just a dog? What if he were a bridge to understanding the profound connections that bind all living beings? With a newfound curiosity, she decided to explore the idea further. The following days were filled with research and discussions about animal perception, spiritual beliefs, and the unexplainable bond between humans and their pets. The family started to pay closer attention to Max's behavior, noting patterns and peculiarities that had previously gone unnoticed. One day, while browsing through an online forum dedicated to pet owners, Mrs. Thompson stumbled across a post about animal communication. Intrigued, she read about how some animals were said to possess the ability to convey messages or emotions through their actions. Inspired, she began to experiment, using simple commands and observing Max's reactions with a sense of wonder. "Max, can you show us what you see?" she asked one afternoon, her voice filled with hope. To her astonishment, the dog tilted his head, as if considering her request. Moments later, he bounded toward a nearby tree, sniffing at the base before looking back at her, eyes bright and expectant. It was a small moment, but it felt monumental. Could it be that Max was indeed trying to communicate something more? With each passing day, the Thompsons found themselves more engrossed in this exploration of their pet's unique abilities. They began to incorporate new routines into their lives, taking Max on walks to different parks, allowing him to interact with various environments. They noticed that in certain locations, his behavior would shift dramatically. In places with heavy foot traffic, he would remain calm, but in quieter, more secluded areas, he would often pause, sniffing the air as if deciphering a hidden message. One afternoon, while walking along a wooded path, they encountered an older gentleman with a small dog. Max immediately perked up, his tail wagging furiously as he approached the other dog. The two canines sniffed each other, and in that moment, an interesting dynamic unfolded. The other dog, a timid beagle, seemed to draw comfort from Max's presence, and the gentleman smiled, watching the interaction with a warmth that resonated with the Thompsons. As they exchanged pleasantries, the conversation turned to the topic of animal intuition. "You know," the gentleman said, "my beagle has a knack for sensing when something's off. Just last week, he alerted me before a thunderstorm hit. It's uncanny how they seem to know." Mrs. Thompson listened intently, her heart racing as she realized they were not alone in their experiences with Max. "It's like they have their own radar," she chimed in, sharing their own stories about Max's behavior. The gentleman nodded, his eyes twinkling with understanding. They discussed various instances where pets had predicted events, sensed emotions, and even acted as guardians. With every shared story, Mrs. Thompson felt a growing sense of connection to a wider community of pet lovers who understood the deeper aspects of their relationships with their animals. As the days turned into weeks, the Thompsons transformed their home into a sanctuary of exploration and learning. They began to document Max's behaviors, creating a journal filled with observations, sketches, and reflections. It was a way to honor his unique perspective while deepening their understanding of the bond they shared. One evening, as they gathered around the dining table, Mrs. Thompson brought up the idea of incorporating mindfulness into their daily routine. "What if we take a moment each day to simply be present with Max?" she suggested. The family agreed, excited about the prospect of deepening their connection with their pet. Thus, every evening after dinner, they would sit together in the living room, with Max lying comfortably at their feet. They would close their eyes, focusing on their breaths, inviting a sense of peace and awareness into the space. It was during these moments that they began to feel a palpable energy, an unspoken understanding that transcended words. Max would often let out a contented sigh, as if he too was reveling in the shared experience. One particular night, as they engaged in their mindfulness practice, something extraordinary happened. The room was filled with a soft glow from the lamp, and the air felt electric. Suddenly, Max lifted his head, ears perked, and began to gaze into the corner of the room again, just as he had on that first peculiar night. Mrs. Thompson opened her eyes, drawn to his unwavering focus. "What is it, Max?" she whispered softly, feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The atmosphere shifted, and for a moment, she felt as if time stood still. It was as if they were on the cusp of discovering something profound, an understanding that lay just beyond their grasp. In that instant, a flicker of movement caught her eye, but when she turned to look, there was nothing there. Yet, the feeling lingered, an awareness that something was present, something that Max could see. The family shared a knowing glance, silently acknowledging the bond they had forged not only with one another, but also with the mysteries that surrounded them. As the weeks turned into months, the Thompsons continued to embrace this journey of exploration and connection with Max. They found solace in nature, comfort in their shared experiences, and a deeper appreciation for the bond they had cultivated. The evenings spent in mindfulness became a cherished ritual, a time to connect not only with Max, but with the universe itself. Through this journey, they learned that their beloved golden retriever was more than just a pet. He was a guide, a companion, and a conduit to a world filled with wonder. Max had opened their eyes to the unseen, inviting them to embrace the mysteries that lay just beyond the veil of their everyday lives. And as they continued to navigate this extraordinary journey together, they knew that the love and connection they shared would always be a source of strength, illuminating the path ahead, one gaze at a time. As they continued to navigate this extraordinary journey together, they knew that the love and connection they shared would always be a source of strength, illuminating the path ahead, one gaze at a time. The Thompsons began to notice that Max's intuitive abilities were not just limited to sensing emotions or impending storms. There were moments when it felt like he was guiding them toward deeper insights about themselves and their relationships with one another. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Mrs. Thompson noticed that Max had grown restless. He paced back and forth, occasionally stopping to look at each family member, as if he were trying to communicate something important. The atmosphere felt charged with energy, and she sensed that he was picking up on an underlying tension that had been building within the family. "Is everything okay, Max?" she asked, her voice gentle, yet curious. The dog paused, looking directly into her eyes. In that instant, she felt a wave of understanding wash over her, an unspoken acknowledgement of the stress that had crept into their lives. Mr. Thompson, who had been silently brooding over work-related issues, caught her eye and nodded. "You're right. I've been a bit preoccupied lately," he admitted, his voice laced with vulnerability. "I've had a lot on my mind, and I didn't want to burden anyone with it." Max, as if sensing the need for connection, moved closer to him, resting his head on Mr. Thompson's knee. The gesture was simple, yet profound, a reminder that sometimes all it takes is a moment of presence to bridge the gap between hearts. Mrs. Thompson smiled softly, appreciating Max's innate ability to bring the family together. "Let's take a moment to talk about what's been bothering us," she suggested, encouraging openness. Each family member took turns sharing their thoughts and feelings, and as they spoke, Max remained close, offering a sense of comfort and grounding. Through this process, they realized that their bond with Max extended beyond companionship. He was a catalyst for healing, prompting them to confront unspoken emotions and fostering a sense of unity. Each gaze he directed towards them seemed to carry a message of understanding, urging them to be present with one another. As they continued this practice of openness, the Thompsons found themselves growing closer than ever. They began to schedule regular family nights, where they would gather to share meals, play games, and simply enjoy each other's company. Max became an integral part of these evenings, often curling up in the middle of the living room floor, his presence a comforting reminder of the love that enveloped them. During one of these family nights, while playing a game of charades, Max's behavior took a curious turn. As Mrs. Thompson acted out her clue, Max suddenly jumped to his feet, barking excitedly. It was as if he understood the game better than they did. The family erupted into laughter, and it became a running joke that Max was their secret weapon for winning charades. But beyond the laughter, this moment revealed another layer to their relationship. It was a reminder that Max was not just a passive participant in their lives. He was actively engaged, responding to their energy and emotions in ways they had never fully appreciated before. This realization deepened their understanding of the bond between humans and animals, as they recognized the intricate ways in which they communicated and connected with one another. As the seasons changed, the Thompsons continued their exploration of Max's unique abilities. They began to incorporate more activities that allowed them to connect with nature, from hiking in the mountains to visiting the beach. Each adventure offered new opportunities for discovery, and Max thrived in these environments, his instincts guiding them through the beauty and wonder of the natural world. On a crisp autumn day, they decided to venture to a nearby pumpkin patch. The family was excited to pick pumpkins for Halloween, and Max was eager to explore the vibrant fields. As they roamed among the rows of pumpkins, Mrs. Thompson noticed Max acting unusually alert, his ears perked and his nose twitching as he darted toward a patch that seemed to draw his attention. "Look at him go!" Mr. Thompson laughed, watching as Max sniffed the ground with fervor. "What do you think he's found?" Mrs. Thompson smiled, intrigued. "Maybe he's sensing something special," she mused, following Max as he led them deeper into the patch. They soon discovered a small clearing where a cluster of pumpkins sat, untouched and perfect for carving. It was as if Max had guided them to the hidden gem of the patch. As they selected their pumpkins, Max sat proudly beside them, his tail wagging in delight. In that moment, Mrs. Thompson felt a surge of gratitude for the serendipitous experiences their pet brought into their lives. Max wasn't just a companion. He was a guide, leading them to moments of joy and connection that they might have otherwise overlooked. That evening, as they gathered around the dining table to carve their pumpkins, laughter filled the air. Max lay contentedly at their feet, basking in the warmth of family togetherness. In the flickering candlelight, Mrs. Thompson reflected on how Max had transformed their lives. He had encouraged them to explore the world with open hearts and minds, reminding them to cherish the small moments that often go unnoticed. As Halloween approached, the family decided to host a gathering for friends and neighbors. They decorated the house with cobwebs and spooky lights, and Max, ever the social butterfly, welcomed each guest with enthusiastic tail wags and playful nudges. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, and as the night unfolded, Max became the star of the evening, performing tricks and charming everyone with his affectionate nature. However, amidst the fun, Mrs. Thompson noticed that Max occasionally paused, scanning the room with a watchful eye as if he were assessing the energy of the gathering. It was during these moments that she felt a sense of awe at the depth of his perception. Max wasn't just enjoying the festivities. He was attuned to the emotions of the people around him, sensing their joy and perhaps even their hidden anxieties. Later in the evening, as the children ran around playing games, Max suddenly trotted to a corner where a young girl sat quietly, seemingly overwhelmed by the noise. She was shy, her eyes wide as she observed the festivities from a distance. Max approached her gently, resting his head on her lap and offering a soft whine. The girl's expression shifted from apprehension to delight, and she reached out to pet him, her smile growing as her anxiety melted away. Witnessing this interaction, Mrs. Thompson felt her heart swell. Max had an innate ability to connect with those in need, offering comfort in the most unassuming ways. It was a beautiful reminder of how animals could serve as healers, bridging gaps between emotions and fostering connections that transcended words. As the night drew to a close, the Thompsons reflected on the profound impact Max had on their lives. He had not only deepened their bond as a family, but had also opened their eyes to the beauty of compassion and connection. Each day with him was a reminder that love knows no bounds, and that through their shared experiences, they were all part of a greater tapestry of life. The following weeks were filled with more moments of discovery and connection. Inspired by their experiences, the Thompsons began volunteering at a local animal shelter, bringing Max along to help socialize the dogs. They watched in amazement as he effortlessly connected with the other animals, his playful spirit encouraging even the shyest dogs to come out of their shells. Through this work, they met other pet owners who shared their stories of connection with their animals, further validating their belief that there was something truly special about the bond between humans and their pets. They learned about the importance of animal welfare and the impact of companionship on both animals and humans alike. One day, while volunteering, Mrs. Thompson met a young boy named Leo who had recently lost his beloved dog. She could see the sadness in his eyes as he recounted the loss, and her heart ached for him. As she sat beside him, Max approached, sensing the boy's sorrow. He instinctively leaned against Leo, offering a gentle nudge that seemed to say, "You're not alone." Leo looked up, surprise and wonder dancing across his face. "Is he really friendly?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Absolutely," Mrs. Thompson replied, smiling. "He has a special way of helping people feel better." With that, Max settled beside Leo, a quiet understanding passing between them. The bond that formed in that moment was a testament to the healing power of animals. It was a reminder that even in times of loss, companionship could bring warmth and hope. As the months rolled on, the Thompsons continued to delve deeper into their understanding of Max's extraordinary abilities. They attended workshops on animal communication, explored holistic practices for pets, and even connected with experts who shared insights into the fascinating world of animal intuition. Through it all, Max remained their steadfast companion, guiding them with his gentle spirit and unwavering loyalty. He was more than just a pet. He was a source of inspiration, a reminder to stay present and open to the wonders of the world around them. On a quiet winter evening, as snowflakes danced outside their window, the family gathered around the fireplace. With Max nestled comfortably at their feet, they shared stories of their adventures and the lessons they had learned along the way. Each tale was punctuated by laughter and warmth, a celebration of the love that had blossomed within their family. In that moment, Mrs. Thompson felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Their journey with Max had been transformative, filled with unexpected discoveries, deepened connections, and a newfound appreciation for the beauty of life. She realized that the bond they shared with their furry companion was a profound reminder of the mysteries that lay just beyond their perception, waiting to be uncovered. In that moment, Mrs. Thompson felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Their journey with Max had been transformative, filled with unexpected discoveries, deepened connections, and a newfound appreciation for the beauty of life. She realized that the bond they shared with their furry companion was a profound reminder of the mysteries that lay just beyond their perception, waiting to be uncovered. As the fire crackled and the room glowed with warmth, they decided to create a new family tradition, a gratitude night, where they would gather at the end of each month to reflect on the moments that had touched them most. They would share the joy and lessons learned from Max, and the deep connections they had forged not only with him, but with each other. The first gratitude night was filled with laughter and heartfelt stories. Mr. Thompson recounted the time Max had saved the day during a family camping trip, alerting them to a bear that had wandered too close to their campsite. "I swear he knew something was off," he said, his eyes sparkling with the memory. "He stood guard, barking fiercely until we packed up and moved to safety. It was like he had a sense of danger that we couldn't possibly understand." Mrs. Thompson chimed in, sharing how Max had comforted her through difficult moments at work, sensing her stress even before she felt it herself. "He would curl up next to me, letting me know that everything would be okay. It's incredible how he seems to know what we need, even when we don't realize it ourselves." Their daughter, Lily, a budding artist, shared her own experience, revealing how Max had inspired her latest painting. "I wanted to capture how he looks at us, like he sees so much more than we do. I painted him in a field, surrounded by colors and lights, because I feel like he brings magic into our lives," she explained, her eyes shining with excitement. As they took turns sharing their reflections, Max lay peacefully at their feet, ears perked and eyes half closed, as if he understood the importance of the moment. It was a beautiful sight that showcased the love and warmth that filled their home. Each story added another layer to the tapestry of their lives, illustrating the profound ways Max had impacted them. In the following months, their gratitude nights became a cherished family ritual. Each gathering brought new insights, allowing them to explore the emotional landscape of their experiences and Max's role within it. They would often find themselves laughing about the little quirks that made Max unique: his goofy antics, his penchant for stealing socks, and his uncanny ability to know when someone was feeling down. One evening, as they sat together sharing their thoughts, Mrs. Thompson felt a wave of inspiration wash over her. "What if we could share our experiences with others?" she suggested. "We could write a book about Max and the lessons he has taught us about love, connection, and the unseen world." The family exchanged excited glances, and soon, they were brainstorming ideas for their book. They envisioned it filled with stories of their adventures, insights into Max's intuitive abilities, and the importance of the human-animal bond. It was a project that would not only honor Max, but also inspire others to appreciate the magic that pets can bring into their lives. As winter melted into spring, the Thompsons dedicated their weekends to writing and illustrating their book. They filled it with colorful drawings, heartfelt anecdotes, and reflections on their journey with Max. The process brought them even closer together, creating a shared sense of purpose and creativity. Max remained by their side throughout, his presence a constant source of comfort and inspiration. He would often curl up in the middle of the living room while they worked, his gentle snores a soothing reminder that love and companionship were the heart of their story. Once they completed their manuscript, they decided to self-publish, eager to share their experiences with the world. They organized a small launch party at their home, inviting friends, family, and even fellow animal lovers from the community. It was an evening filled with excitement, laughter, and a sense of accomplishment. As they gathered to celebrate, Mrs. Thompson took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. It was a testament to the bond they shared, one that had grown stronger with each passing day. She realized that their journey was not just about Max. It was about the lessons they had learned about love, understanding, and the beauty of being present in the moment. As the evening progressed and the guests began to share their own stories of connection with their pets, it became clear that the Thompsons were not alone in their experiences. Each tale contributed to a rich tapestry of love and understanding, illustrating the unique ways in which animals touch our lives. There was laughter, nostalgia, and even tears as people recalled their beloved companions, highlighting the universal bond that exists between humans and their furry friends. Max, ever the center of attention, basked in the affection showered upon him. He seemed to thrive in the warmth of the gathering, his tail wagging and eyes sparkling with joy. The family watched with pride, knowing that their journey had created ripples that extended far beyond their home. As the night drew to a close, Mrs. Thompson felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. They had not only shared their story, but had also fostered connections within their community, reminding everyone of the profound impact that pets have on our lives. In that moment, she understood that the love they shared with Max was a gift, one that would continue to inspire and uplift others for years to come. With their book launched and their message spreading, the Thompsons found themselves more connected than ever, not just with one another, but with the world around them. They received messages from readers who resonated with their experiences, sharing their own stories of love, loss, and the lessons learned from their pets. It was heartwarming to see how their journey had touched the lives of others, creating a sense of community founded on shared experiences and understanding. As they settled into their new routine of attending book signings and community events, Max remained a steadfast companion. He accompanied them on every adventure, captivating everyone he met with his gentle spirit and playful nature. Whether they were visiting schools to share their story with children or participating in local fairs, Max brought joy and connection wherever he went. One sunny afternoon, they were invited to a community event focused on animal welfare. The Thompsons set up a booth to promote their book and share the importance of the bond between pets and their owners. As they spoke with attendees, they encouraged them to reflect on their own relationships with animals and to consider the ways in which their pets enhance their lives. Max wandered through the crowd, greeting children and adults alike, his tail wagging in delight. He had an uncanny ability to sense when someone needed a little extra love, often gravitating toward those who seemed shy or anxious. It was as if he carried an invisible thread of connection, weaving together the hearts of everyone he met. As the day progressed, Mrs. Thompson witnessed the power of connection unfold in real time. A young girl approached their booth, her eyes filled with uncertainty. She hesitated, glancing at Max, who sat patiently beside her, his gaze encouraging her to step closer. "Do you want to pet him?" Mrs. Thompson asked gently. The girl nodded, her smile slowly breaking through her shyness. As she reached out to stroke Max's fur, her face lit up with joy. In that moment, a bond formed, one that transcended words and spoke to the deep connection that exists between humans and animals. The event was a resounding success, filled with laughter, connection, and inspiration. As they packed up their booth at the end of the day, Mrs. Thompson couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. Their journey had come full circle, and they had created a ripple effect that inspired others to appreciate the beauty of the bond they shared with their pets. With the seasons changing and new adventures on the horizon, the Thompsons remained committed to their mission of spreading love and connection through their story. They continued to explore the depths of their relationship with Max, finding new ways to celebrate the extraordinary bond they shared. One evening, while sitting on the porch, Mrs. Thompson reflected on how far they had come. She realized that Max had not only opened their eyes to the unseen, but had also taught them about the importance of kindness, empathy, and being present in each moment. Their journey was a testament to the love that animals bring into our lives, reminding them that the connections we forge are often the most meaningful. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over their home, Mrs. Thompson looked at Max, who sat contentedly at her feet. "Thank you for being our guide, Max," she whispered, her heart full of gratitude. In that moment, she understood that their journey was far from over. It was just the beginning of a new chapter filled with love, connection, and the mysteries that awaited them. With that thought, she smiled, knowing that together, they would continue to explore the extraordinary world around them, one gaze at a time. And as they embraced the adventures that lay ahead, they carried with them the profound understanding that love, in all its forms, was the greatest gift of all.